Tyrell Mangum, I've worked with you for what, 5 years? 7 years?
7 years, I think, dude, since 2017.
2017. I consider your stories like one of the greatest stories ever, man. I believe everybody has potential to do great things. I think everybody has potential to sell, but like potential doesn't always lead into results, man. And I kind of want to just talk a little bit about your story and the transformation you went over. So your first summer wasn't bad. Like you did 75,000 in revenue.
I feel like that was pretty bad.
It wasn't great. And then this previous summer, you did over 500 accounts, over $355,000 in revenue. Like that's a dramatic change in performance, man. I guess if you can, tell me what happened.
Well, basically, like, I feel like as part of the reason why I've had success over the years and be able to sell like 100 more accounts almost every year is because I feel like the company's gotten better. Like, it is easier to sell 200 to 300 accounts now than it was even 4 or 5 years ago. And I think you could, like, if you've sold before, it's easier to sell now than it was back then when you were selling. It's easier to sell now than when I was selling. Like our operations have gotten so freaking good and our service is so freaking good that you don't have to have like a ton of talent in order to sell well. I feel like, at least.
I totally agree, man. Like when I talk with reps or if I ever do interviews, right? Like it's not, the hours can be challenging to some people, but it's just the mental and the emotional aspect that's challenging. But like actually using our training and the service we provide, like it's not like you're really breaking anybody's arms to sign up. Like it's a pretty no-brainer, you know, in my opinion.
I agree, and I think that something that really was a mind shift my first summer to my second, third, and I kind of like kept the theme going on like throughout all the years I've sold, is that like there's this simple formula: your pitch, no matter how good it is, plus the amount of doors knocked equals sales.
Yeah.
And so like if you feel like you want to improve, you have, or you want to sell more pest control, you have to do one of two things. You have to either make your pitch better or you have to knock more doors. And just the realization that so much of what we do is a numbers game, and that you don't have to reinvent the wheel in order to sell pest control. I feel like a lot of guys, especially first year reps and even like multiple years into this, get so frustrated that they mess with that formula and they start like, okay, they'll have a door that they knock on and the person gets really mad at them, and so their pitch is off for the rest of the day, and that breaks the formula. Or they'll have like something go wrong and they don't knock as many doors that day, they're not as fast, they either leave early for the summer or come out later, something like that. That messes with that formula, and so you're either not, your pitch isn't as good or you're not knocking as many doors. And if I could go back and talk to myself like back when I was first selling, I'd just be like, dude, relax. Like, just go out, knock doors, run this formula over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And guess what? Magically, sales appear.
Yeah. What Tyrell's pretty famous for too is just like, I think we all have limiting beliefs or limiting thoughts. And one of the things that you're famous for, man, is like we can take any team that's struggling, doesn't matter the neighborhood, the wealth that may or may not be there. You're able to go in that car group and sell well everywhere you go. And I think it's so rare to find someone like you that's able to go to any situation and have your own focus, your own drive, and create your results every single day, no matter where you're at, what time of the year it is, what the temperature is like. You go out and you get dropped in any area and you're going to go perform. And that provides massive lift for the office. Just massive lift, man. It makes me like really incredible and flattered. Like I get to work with somebody like as tenacious as you, man. So were you born that way, or is that just kind of an attitude you've adopted over the years?
Definitely an attitude I've adopted over the years. I mean, like when I first started selling pest control, I think I had like net negative sales skills. Probably net negative social skills as well.
I'm still net negative social.
But I feel like it just goes back to that formula. Just like whether you're in a new area, whether you're knocking rich stuff, poor stuff, in between, something you're familiar with, something you're not familiar with, you knock enough doors, you're going to get sales. And like where guys struggle is they knock on that first or second door somewhere during the day where they run into the one guy in the neighborhood who's super angry or weird or that it just throws them off. And then they think that every single door after that's going to be angry, or they carry feelings from one door to the next. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so like you can't do that. You can't carry at least negative feelings from one door to the next door.
Yeah.
And then like, because people, we have this thing like, say that people, we mirror, people mirror, you're like, we mirror other people in ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think people mirror us more. You're the one knocking on the door. You're one of the ones starting the conversation. If you knock on the door and you're feeling super frustrated, or if you knock on the door, you're feeling a little bit angry. If you're knocking on the door, you look like bored out of your mind. They're not going to want to talk to you. You know, you just messed with the formula, you know?
Yeah. Well, I feel like most people are reactive. So like when I'm working with, experienced reps or first year reps, right? Like I'll be talking to them, they'll be having what we'll say a bad day, right? And so much of our communication is we talk about our nonverbals a lot, right? But I really believe like we put off energy and vibes that people pick up on. Like I think everybody's maybe had an experience where you've stepped into a room and like you're just like, whoa, this is tense. Like I need to step out of here, right? And then there's some people I've been around where you step around them and you just feel good and you just feel really happy.
Right.
When those reps are feeling frustrated, discouraged, right? That's coming across in their body. It's coming the way that they speak, and there'll be guys that'll be knocking, right next to in another neighborhood where everybody over there seems to be really friendly and really nice, but for whatever reason, this street, everyone's angry. And I just always encourage reps like most people are very reactive, man. Like be proactive. Yeah. Be proactive. You decide how they want to feel. And like when they have your attitude and your belief system, like that positivity and that confidence radiates on every single door and you get to decide your outcomes every single day.
Right. And you have to decide what those challenges mean to you. You have to decide when you go into a new area, if you struggle at first, you have to decide, okay, is this just a frustrating moment? Oh my gosh, I have to just I just knocked today and then tomorrow we'll leave, something which is really unhealthy. Or you can be like, this is my opportunity to get really good at selling at this demographic so I'd never have to have this problem ever again. Or like I had this situation one time, and I think I still have these situations every once in a while where someone opens the door and they're just like the crazy person in the neighborhood, and you're knocking enough doors that you're going to run into some crazy people. That's just like statistically, that's just how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's up to you in your mind to figure out like, what does that mean to you? I remember a couple of years ago, I had this, it was a particularly rough day in the neighborhood. I know I was off that day, something, I don't know.
Hard for me to imagine, but go on.
Anyway, I sold like 2 that day. And I remember one of the last doors I knocked on, this lady came to the door and she was like, man, I hope you fail. I was like, oh, okay then.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for making that personal. And like, I decided in that moment myself, I was like, I'm going to I can either let her own real estate in my head, or I can own real estate in her head. Or like basically, I went out the next day and I sold 8 in that neighborhood just because I'm like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Well, I think so much of this job, like for sure, there's a skill set, like there's scripts and things that we encourage everyone to follow, but like the guys that just win like you are just super, super tenacious, man. And what I love is like that tenacity that you bring into your personal growth and development. What I would love for you to share a little bit about is this past summer, I know in your first creation, you made an analogy to like you're treating yourself and your body like you're a professional athlete. Right. And that's how you're going to conduct yourself over the summer. Would you mind just kind of going in depth about how you carried that through?
Yeah, sure. I really feel like with a professional athlete theme, we all know like an athletes who come into training camp and it's like, wow, you are out of shape, and they play their way into shape. And I think there's a lot of salesmen that do the same thing. They're like their first door of the summer is the first time they thought about selling doors like all year until they knock their first door of the summer. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, you're going to struggle right off the bat. I feel like at least because you're not ready to go. if you can prepare yourself in the off season in every aspect of your life, you're really going to be able to get past some obstacles a lot faster. And not just like, so what I've done in the past is I've written out, okay, these are all my sales strengths. What are my sales strengths? What are my sales weaknesses? And just by looking at that, I can say, okay, the reason why I struggle with this is because I lean on this strength a ton, and I have this weakness in my sales pitch or my sales game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or whether it's like a certain demographic of people, or whether it's a certain objection, whether it's a certain type of home, or whatever it is. And then you go find people that are good at selling that demographic, that house, that objection, overcoming it. And you learn from those people. You learn those skills. You apply those skills when you get to the doors, and you track, okay, am I doing better at this? Am I improving in these little areas here? And over time, you do that enough with enough topics, not just like sales skills, but like mental skills. Like, what are some mental weaknesses and some mental roadblocks I have in the summer, whether it's, knocking the rain, or whether it's just knocking in heat, whatever it is, those mental roadblocks, if you can work and if each one of those has like a 1% increase in your productivity, and if you do 10 of them, that's a 10% increase. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I love how you always close me. It's just who you are now.
Exactly.
I'm like afraid to say no, that doesn't make sense,
my wife
man.
loves that. My life loves the closes that I use. It's great.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of want to talk about that a little bit too. One of the things I've noticed is like my top performers are married. And I feel like that's a little contrarian. Like when I'm recruiting or I'm meeting with other reps, like I often see people saying like, well, I don't know if this is good because this is a massive sacrifice of time over a few months of the summer, right? And I always try to remind people like you're pretty young, like 3 to 4 months isn't huge, but regardless, like it's a sacrifice, right?
Even if you're old, 3 to 4 months isn't big.
No, it's not. But it is a sacrifice, man. And I for sure believe your wife has helped impact you and helping you be super successful over the summer. Like, how has that happened?
I think being on the same page has been really important. When we were dating while I was going out and selling pest control. And when I would call her like at night and whatever, she would be like, how many do you sell today? And I'd be like, I sold X. And she was like, okay, well, you need this many more sales to reach your goal for the week. And that was like it's like, thank you.
Yeah.
And when I think there are problems with, the only time when there's disappointment is when there's people aren't meeting correct expectations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you feel like you need to set correct expectations for your wife when you go out and sell, or for your husband or whoever's supporting you, and tell them, okay, this is what it's going to look like. This is what I need from you in order to make this work. Because when you're in a marriage, it really is a teamwork, and a tons amount of my success I can contribute to Carla, my wife, helping me, honestly.
Yeah.
And being there for like support, telling me like, quit stressing out.
Yeah.
When I have like a struggle, or like when I like have a crazy good day, she's like, yeah, you should probably be a little bit more humble right now. Something like that,
Yeah. Things I'd be terrified to tell you.
Exactly. All the things that Chase doesn't want to tell me my wife does.
Dude, Carla's amazing, man. And I think your wife and many of our top performers are just like the unsung heroes, right? Like they're the ones supporting you. They're the ones that help drive you. They help motivate you. And there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into that, man. And
either the unsung heroes or the unsung demons. You can edit that.
I don't know, man. I might keep that one for myself. And so kind of like moving forward, how do I want to frame this? You're like one of the most driven individuals like I've ever met in my life, man. Where does that drive come from? What is your why? What motivates you?
I like that question a lot. I feel like if you don't have a good why, you're really going to struggle during the summer. If you don't have a solid first creation, and like preparing like an athlete is just really what that is, just having a solid first creation. And if you don't have that mission statement, then you might really struggle during the summer, whether you're a rookie rep or whether you've been doing this for years and years and years. And the reason why is because when it gets hard, you're going to need principles to fall back on that are part of you and that are unchanging, and that was the hill you will die on. For me, I feel like those principles are like a mixture. It sounds like really just my faith, my family, and my country. I feel like God expects a lot of me every single day, and He's given me at least the ability to work hard. If zero talent, He's given me the ability to work.
Yeah.
And so if I don't use that, then those talents are gone, of course. And also at the same time, for me personally, I know we've talked a little bit about this in the past, Chase. I feel like both of us are kind of students of history a little bit, and very. I feel like personally that I have an obligation to be the best version of myself because where I'm born. I feel like if you live in the United States, whether you're born here or whether you are immigrate here from another place, you have the responsibility to be the best version of yourself every single day. Mediocrity is unpatriotic.
I want that repeated 100 times over. That was good.
Do you want me to repeat that?
No, that was, we get that.
But yeah, I think mediocrity is unpatriotic. And I think that when I look at past generations that have gone before us, of like my ancestors came from Europe, like over to find a better happiness, a better life for themselves in a new land, a new place with new opportunities. And I've really put that in a parallel with what we do in the summertime. We leave our homes, we leave our comfort zone to go find a better life for us, selling pest control, being the best versions of ourselves. And if you need to have the guts to be able to live up to who you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if you don't, then I really feel like it's throwing dirt in the face of all the people who have gone before you. And there's this quote I really like. And so every day during the summer, am I talking too much?
No, this is amazing.
Dude, every day during the summer, something I would do is I'd read my mission statement. Not every day, but a lot of days. I would at least I'd go for a couple of weeks straight with reading my mission statement.
Yeah.
And I feel, and that mission statement just had a couple of core principles that I apply in every aspect of my life, including my personal life, my faith, my work. Just those are unchanging principles that I believe in and that apply to me in that mission statement. And I think that I'm not going to read my mission statement. Is it okay if I read someone else's?
Yeah.
So like I was saying, I really like to draw on examples from people who have gone before me in history or in life, good sales reps, people who I respect quite a lot. And I heard this story a couple of years ago where there was this soldier, Martin Treptow. He was fighting in World War I, and he was carrying a message from one platoon to the next, and he was killed. And on his body, in his diary, underneath the flyleaf, they found his mission statement. I'm going to read it real quick. America must win this war. Therefore, I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure. I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone. When we sell in the summer, when we be the best versions of ourselves, when we make those mission statements, when we make that first creation, when we lift others around us, we are on the shoulders of people that have gone before us. And whether that's your parents, whether that's whoever, you have to live up to the principles of who you are. Does it make sense?
That does make sense, man. That's powerful. And yeah, I'm definitely write that quote down. That's huge. I'm so grateful for this country, man. And kind of leaning into that, you've sold, quite a few places over your career. What is it you love about selling in the DC area?
Oh yeah, this is fun. I love this topic.
Okay.
So the biggest reason I love selling in the DC area is that market is absolutely 100% recession proof. Nothing that goes on in the rest of the country affects the DC market. There will always and always will be money in that market. There is so much money.
Always.
Whether it's like, if the economy is doing well, then awesome, the economy is doing well and DC is good. If the economy is going badly, first thing the government does is puts in tons of money. Guess who gets that money first? Bureaucracy and
We'll call it the oligarchy.
Yeah, the oligarchy. Basically, people that work for the government, and those are the people that are in DC, whether they're contractors or not. Basically, they have like that. They've tapped into like the lifeline of all of our tax dollars, and so that is awesome. And so we're able to, redistribute the wealth in a healthy way.
I like that. Yeah, and like if anybody wants to know my political beliefs, I'm happy to share them. But wherever you are on that side of the spectrum, man, that's one of my biggest points too about that area. Like this year is looking a little shaky as far as the economy. Who knows what's going to happen? But no matter what side of the aisle you lean on, man, they always spend more money. And I remember during 2020, during COVID, when things were pretty scary, like nobody knew what was going to happen, what it was going to look like. I remember going on the doors and I heard so many stories from you, from everyone else, where they're just like, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm a government contractor. Oh yeah. Like my paycheck's guaranteed, Oh
yeah. And people were working from home during that time. So that was awesome. And just like in DC in general, even if you don't work for the government, like what about the people who don't work for the government? Well, guess who they work for? The people who work for the government.
Yep.
All the entire economy of DC is revolved around government spending, and the government never stops spending. And so there will always, always, always be money there. That's why you can go into super ghetto neighborhoods. They have money too, and their homes are worth like, $300,000 to $400,000. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one of my favorite things too. Is like, there's almost anywhere you go knock in the DC area, like there's very few places where like they can't afford it. And by very few, like I really haven't found a place yet, and when you're out there knocking and you're selling, I think that's one of the reasons why we lead in contract value and why we lead in sales and our retention is like those people have a lot of money, man. And what's really cool too is it's such an eclectic background you get to tap into. Like right. Nobody, like when you knock in the DC area, like nobody's actually like really from DC, like they're from somewhere else. And you get to meet new people all the time on the doors that are super fascinating. Like what I have fun in DC is like there's so much wealth and so much concentration in that area. Like
a lot of diversity.
And like whoever it is, that door you're knocking on, odds are they're the best at is at whatever they do.
Right.
And so the confidence that I've gained and I've seen other people gain, especially with people like you that are in college and coming out of college, is like I've literally pitched CEOs every single day for 3 months. I know how to gain their respect. I know how to communicate to them. I understand how to speak their language. And I feel like that's something like you've done really, really, really well. Really well. And even kind of leading into that, like you've got an amazing degree from BYU in finance. I really believe there's a million things you could be doing, man, that would make you successful and happy. Why do you keep coming back?
Oh my gosh. Because there's no good reason to leave.
Cut. I'm kidding.
Literally. So like I've thought about this, of course, a lot, you know what I mean? And through the years, and people are like, why don't you go out and get a real job? Well, the reason why I've stayed for so long is because why would I go try to find a dream job somewhere else where I have everything that I want here? I have, of course, a job where I can make really good amount of money.
I know what you get paid, man. It's pretty good.
It's fun. And you have a job where you're like, well, it's really demanding. Well, in the off season, you can definitely have time with your family. You know, that's why I think like there's this limiting belief. You can't do this with a family. I talked to someone who had 3 kids and still did this, and they were like, yeah, well, I get to spend tons of time with my family in the off season, and that's why I love this job. That's why I keep doing this job, because I have a family.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, where else are you going to find a job that you can make 6 figures, you make 6 figures pretty consistently, where you get basically paid vacation to Hawaii and where you only have to work like 5 or 6 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Like those jobs don't exist. Like, why would you go anywhere else? And also at the same time where those principles are aligned, the principles are aligned with who you are. And those Moxie principles of core values, honesty, integrity, hard work, keeping commitments. Like, it's the perfect package. Culture, money, future, everything else.
That's awesome, man. I think I'm ready to go sell on your team. And for anyone that's watching this, man, like, I for sure highly, highly respect Tyrell. I love working with, man. He's obviously a fierce competitor. He's a winner. He's a producer, but he's a good man. Like, we talk a lot about what we do in the summer, but I think you do it with integrity, man. Like, I know and have seen other people that have done similar numbers that you've done, but I don't think they were always honest and ethical in what they do. And for year after year after year, like, your feedback from our customers has been so good, that you've been very honest and upfront about our service, that you've treated people with kindness, you've treated people with respect. And that integrity and that character, like, has really, I think, helped us retain a lot of people at this company, and I think is bringing the right people to the table, man. I really appreciate that a lot. And like, I know for anybody that chooses to go do this job, man, like, working with you is going to help them deliver results they've never had before. And type in case I'd like to use is Jose Alfredo, your team leader you got coming back. He came out this summer, and one of the reasons he talked about his success was because of the way that you prepared him for that summer, man. So kind of moving forward, for anyone that'd be looking to work with you, or just any rep in general that's never sold before, what advice would you give them to prepare for the summer?
First creation. I think that you should, there's 2 areas. Of course, you need to do your first creation, have like a really powerful why. The guys that I've seen so well have really powerful whys, whether it's like, dude, I need to do this or my family's going to struggle.
Yeah.
Or I need to do this because I need to be the best version of myself. I want that so bad, beyond belief. Mm-hmm. I want to be successful more than anything else in the world. You know what I mean? And the guys that I see that fall off, that you're like, man, that guy had so much talent. Why did he fail? It's because he didn't have a very strong why. Yeah. Because the call of like, man, I could be home right now. I could be on daddy's yacht. I could be boating with my friends. Yeah. Like that stuff calls harder than your reason for success. So make sure you have a good why, and also prepare yourself mentally, dude. Read some books. There's a couple of books I could recommend. Door to Door Millionaire is a good one. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins is an extremely good one. Yeah. 7 Habits is also a really good one. I think one big reason Alfredo did really well is before the summer, he was making and keeping commitments, and he was not just in sales, but in his own personal life. He started working on his first creation before he even got out there. And he read Can't Hurt Me. He read most of 7 Habits. So he was given the right mindset in order to succeed. And he was given a massive why.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you doing that and like all the amazing work that you do. And that's like, as I shared with you in the leadership in Hawaii, like when I'm looking at what we need to do for growth, I keep coming back to keeping commitments and really, really deepening our sense of commitment. How can I get more committed to the results that I want? How can I help my leadership be more committed to the results that they want? You know, how can we get our rookie reps committed to getting the results that they want? And that's something that I want to talk a lot this year. And like, I definitely want to hear from people like you, like the way you approach your summer, the way you've consistently improved year after year, man. Like, what does commitment look like to you?
It means realizing where you are in your life, like being very honest with yourself, and setting goals to get to where you want to be, and doing the commitments. Like I was telling you earlier, like when I first started selling pest control, I had like net negative sales skills. Yeah. And to be quite honest, I was like extremely scared to sell pest control. Yeah. And extremely nervous to sell pest control. And every day I just feel like just start getting the jitters like before going out and knocking on doors. And I think that everyone gets that.
Yeah.
And I still get that. But I have made and kept enough commitments as far as knocking doors and as far as working hard and, doing the best within the Moxie program, that those personal weaknesses that I have don't matter anymore. And they're behind me.
I love that confidence you built in yourself, man. And I think that really does come from making and keeping commitments, man. Like, what I'm hoping people understand that work with us and who will work with us, like for me personally, I've shared this before, like I take my commitments very, very, very seriously. And so I'm very careful to the things that I commit to. Not that I'm afraid of commitment, but to me, I know what it means to be truly committed.
Yeah, you got married in you're like 30? Duh, you're scared of commitment.
Yeah, 40. But I looked like I was 22, so.
Yeah, exactly.
But those are really serious, man. And like one of the gifts I hope we can give to people is they can understand the power that comes with commitment, right? Like if you can truly become committed to this job, committed to finishing the summer, committed to come out and hitting your goals, like there's a lot of work that goes into that, but the freedom, the opportunity that you create for yourself, it's just unparalleled, man. And that confidence that you now have in yourself, like didn't happen overnight. It became over years of making and keeping commitments, right, man. And that's how I know you've been successful, and I know how you're going to continue to be successful.
And something that I really feel like is important when you talk about keeping commitments, become the best version of yourself. To some people, that kind of sounds corny. It's like, oh, it sounds like pie in the sky. Like, do your best, sir.
Yeah.
But really, you can, I feel like I'm an example of that. Just like someone who just was one of the worst salesmen in the office.
Yeah.
And I felt like I've been the worst salesman in the office. I've been the mediocre salesman in the office, and I've been the best salesman in the office. I feel like I know what all three of those feel like. And like if you're able to, I guess, plug into the Moxie trainings, into the core values, into what they teach in 7 Habits, First Creation, things like that, if you're able to plug into that, actually do the assignments, magically things work out when you're making good decisions in your life and you're working hard. And that's what Moxie is trying to do, help people make good decisions in their life, help them work hard, help them become the best version of themselves, have such a massive support group behind you that it is difficult for you to fail. Yeah,
and I think that's huge, and I think that says a lot about like the culture that you've really helped create here, man. And looking forward to recruiting this year. What is it you're looking for when people want to work with you? Like, what are your qualifications?
It kind of goes back to the why.
Yeah.
I want people with a solid why, a solid reason to be here, whether that's like I'm just a principle center person and I just go after it no matter what I do. Or that's like, look, I need to make this money or life will be bad for me.
Yeah.
People, 2 things either get people to do massively successful things, either inspiration or desperation. Yeah. And you need either one of those 2 in order to be successful, I think, in sales in general.
I think so too, man. And I think anybody that works with you, man, is just going to excel and they're going to thrive. And I kind of want to talk a little bit more, like we always have the things that we're looking for, man, but anyone that signs on to work with you, like what can they expect from your leadership?
That's a good question. Well, they can expect to be trained from someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I feel stupid saying that. I feel like I know how to sell pest control.
Yeah. A little bit.
A little bit, But also like I was saying before, like I know what it feels like to be the best, and I know what it feels like to be one of the worst. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like sometimes there's a disconnect between the guys that sell really well and our team leaders. They've never failed in sales before, and I have. I feel like I've failed quite a bit in sales when I first started, and now I'm able to succeed. And I like working with guys who are just hard workers, who are just like willing to learn. Yeah. Like, look, if you're willing to learn, then I'm willing to teach and make you into build you into successful. We'll do it together. We'll build you to successful, and we'll start from wherever you are right now, If you are the most confident person in the world, you feel like you can sell a whole cul-de-sac, awesome, we'll start from there.
Yeah.
If you feel like you struggle with your intro, you struggle to get past your features and benefits, you struggle to get to price, we'll work from there. Just wherever you are, I will work from, because I have been at every single stage.
I think that sense of empathy is like something you brought to the table that's going to be huge, man. I think when you talked about your first door being nervous and scared, like not a lot of people are willing to admit that or talk that. I definitely felt that way. I definitely worked. My first year for sure was off of desperation, maybe a little bit now. But like, you understand what that's like. And I think for a lot of people that don't know you super well, like you are very confident, you are very successful, and that can be very intimidating. And I wouldn't want people to make this mistake of like, I don't know if Tyrell could connect with me. Like Tyrell has been in your situation from wherever you're at, like the not most performing guy in the office to the most performing guy in the office. And that's a journey he's walked down. And now that he's at the top, like you have the perspective, you have the drive, you have the intuition. Like you said, if they're willing to work, if they're willing to listen, to help bring them to that place. And you don't need to be, you know, perfect at everything or really anything to work with Tyrell. Like I think what you're trying to say is like, I'm just looking for people that have a reason to be out there and that are willing to work at it.
Right.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah, just people that are like you just said, like have a solid why and who are willing to work. Because like if you have both of those things, you're going to succeed. And if you're given the right tools, if you're given the right training, then you're going to do awesome. And there's no reason why you should feel like unsuccessful. I feel like I really resonate with the guys that are just like, man, that just work hard and just like deferred gratification.
Yeah.
Know? And I feel like at least I see a lot of, it excites me when I see so many young guys willing to take failure over and over and over and over and over again and get right back up and go again. And that right there is so freaking powerful, because like you're going to get this because I got it. I just want to tell these guys, like, look, just keep holding on for a little bit longer and you're going to get this and it's going to be awesome.
It is going to be awesome, man. And that's what I get really excited about. For me, I think you share the same thing. Like there's very few things in life that are really exciting to watch someone that's scared, nervous to do something difficult, but they kind of chose to throw themselves in the shark pool and swim into fight. And sometimes like it's painful watching people struggle a little bit as they're going through it. But as you watch them get stronger, as that confidence comes, as that light goes off, like I can do this, like I can do difficult things. And then watching that confidence just kind of swell and take over and that transformation, it's super addicting, man. And it's one of the many reasons why I keep coming back, is because watching that transformation like never gets old, man. And even at my stage of life too, like when I can see that, like when I'm going through my own struggles or my own whys, like it gives me so much inspiration to watch someone like you perform and all the other reps too that stay committed to their goals and they make things happen.
Yeah, and like there's a lot of, something I really like about Moxie in general is like the secret formulas aren't so secret, you know, like if you go to people and be like, hey, can you help me work on this aspect of sales? They will help you work on that.
Yeah.
And whether it's like not just pest control sales, but we have some extremely talented salesmen in like different aspects outside of pest control, or just people that are just really talented. So if you want to get good at anything, there's definitely people within Moxie willing and like able to teach you.
For sure, man. And like I mentioned earlier, like I think you could sell anything in the world, man. But right now, like, you know, one of our biggest competitors right now is solar, man. So why pest over solar?
Good question. Because everyone is going to always have bugs.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing. The product that we sell doesn't matter as much as the engine behind it. The engine that is Moxie is longer lasting and has a stronger foundation and is more durable than any amount of goals that solar people have. And that's just really it. If we were selling solar, we'd be the best at solar. We're selling pest control, so we're the best at pest control and solar.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter what we're selling. We're going to be the best at it because that's who we are. It does, like, whether it's solar, pest, or like, you know, whether we're selling fuller brushes, I don't care. I am selling like for Moxie because we are winners. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
You know,
absolutely, man. And I love winning with you, man. I feel like a winner every time I'm around you, man. I love you a lot. I care about you a lot. I'm super grateful that you choose to be here, man. It really means a lot for me.
Thank you. And thank you so much for, you know, believing in me when other people didn't. And for, I think a huge, like most of my success I can attribute, of course, my wife, but also like second, I think, to you, Tanner, and Tim just being there for me and just being like, look, I believe you can do this when I didn't even believe it, you know?
Yeah. I know you can do it, man. You've done it, and you can do even bigger things, man. A lot of guys can sell well, but a lot of guys struggle to have like really big days. Like, what do you think goes into that?
Basically, everyone knows the guy in the summer who just sells really consistently and who's just like, you know, gets his 3 to 4 every day, but he just struggles to break into double digits, or he struggles to break into what he considers are high numbers.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of guys get that. I've seen a lot of guys just like, I've had so many 9 days and I've never broken into 10. And it's really
9 days are like almost the worst. Like I would have had 8, man. I was 1 away from double digits.
Exactly. I really feel like there's a principle behind it, and I call it like the fear of heights. I feel like guys stop doing what they're doing when they start getting close to what they consider as a high goal. So something that happened to me a couple of years ago, I was selling in an area, and it was probably like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I had 8 sales. And I was like, okay, I stopped selling for a second. I was like, look, what is the difference? What is the motivating factor between me finishing with 9 and me finishing with like 10 or more? And I just came to the conclusion that when you're hot, knock as many doors as possible. Keep knocking doors. There are a lot of guys that like get close to their goal and like, oh, I want to go back and you know, get that go back over there because that'll hit my goal. Or maybe they're home because they're next to this other person that I sold earlier today. Stop doing that junk. Just keep knocking doors. When you're hot, you're hot.
Yeah.
Just put on knock as many doors as possible because you're in a good mood and people are gonna you need to talk to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And I went out. I realized that in that moment. I went out and I sold like 13, 14 that day.
Mm-hmm. 14.
14, sure. It ended up being my PR, and it was awesome. So if you're wanting to have more big days, when you feel like you're going off, don't do the little trick that's going to get you that one extra sale. Keep knocking as many people as possible because you're on fire. Take as many shots as you can.